The television screen is the retina of the mind's eye. Whatever appears on the television screen emerges as a raw experience. Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television.
Hello, everyone. This is Harrison from the Cinema Slime Podcast, and today we are going to be covering Season 1, Episode 5 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, entitled In the Name of the Mother. The trial of seven occurs, we get a flashback to Dunk's flea bottom days, and then we witness one of the most brutal, scrappy, and emotionally charged fight scenes in all of A Song of Ice and Fire. It's absolutely incredible. By this point, you should know that this review is full of spoilers, but I am approaching this review as if it is the only piece of A Song of Ice and Fire media you have ever consumed. Now, we pick up right where we left off from the last episode, and Baelor is rallying the knights around him and giving out his advice for them to succeed in this trial of the seven, and exonerating Dunk, with his best advice being, don't die. While he is laying out his game plan, we get a couple good chirps from the knights, but he also points out that the Kingsguard are sworn to defend him, so they won't actually harm him. So, what does that say about his choice to join the trial? Is he really putting anything on the line? While I believe Baelor genuinely thinks that Dunk is innocent of his crimes, I think this might be him showing off his privileges. He's going to go to this trial with a stacked deck, and he knows it. And I think that is kind of emphasizing the fact that Lionel Baratheon's comment when he asks if Baelor is his mother's favorite. One neglected by his mother fights the most. They have the motivation to prove to themselves and have a need to succeed, while someone like Baelor doesn't need to. If Dunk is found guilty and charged, Baelor can still move on with his life and kind of leave that memory behind him. It's not going to really change his status or his position in this world. Egg runs forward with Dunk's lance, and we get a great exchange between them, sort of reenacting that moment where Dunk told Egg he would chase him down with dogs, and if he stole from him. And I think it's just a nice way to sort of say goodbye to each other, but just leaving the door open for Dunk to return so that their friendship can continue. As they don their helmets, we get a great look at Arian's absolutely badass armor and helmet. You can't deny that at least he looks really good, even though he flaunts his privileges all the time. We also see Daemon putting on his helmet, and if you look actually down the line, you could actually see his father, Maekar. He's poking his head out from the lineup to kind of watch him do so. And, from Maekar's perspective, I think he finds all this an absolute circus and ridiculous, but once the trial is actually set, I think he begins to worry about his two sons. I mean, all of a sudden, this is becoming real, and his sons are in danger, and him being involved in this trial might be his way of trying to keep his two sons alive and protect them. The trial of seven has begun, and Dunk, he freezes. This is really our first moment to see Dunk in action, and I think he is realizing that as well. We get to see and feel his fear and panic as the camera pushes inside of his visor, and I think this is one of the best views we could have because it puts us into the perspective of how claustrophobic and insane this whole sequence is. The first charge occurs, Dunk is struck in the gut by a joust, and he's knocked to the ground right into the mud. With a strike to his helmet by Aemon's mail, we're sent back in time. We come upon Dunk as a young boy, with some of the most striking blue eyes, I might add, harvesting the horseshoes off of a dead horse as its rider lies dying underneath it. As the man awakens, his friend Rafe arrives and suggests they pull him out so they can ransom him to his family. Now, when they're unable to do that, Rafe asks Dunk if he knows any words, because you're supposed to say words over the dead nobleman. He says he doesn't, and it's a great callback to when he will one day stand over Sir Arlen's grave and not know the words to say. I mean, like literally, as I wrote this, I actually went back and watched that opening scene, and it still hits incredibly hard. As they leave the field of the dead, a bag of iron in tow, we start to learn of Dunk's situation and his relationship to Rafe. Two kids scrapping to survive in the poor section of King's Landing called Flea Bottom, selling iron taken from dead men to save enough coin to leave King's Landing and everything behind. While Rafe is eager to leave and pushing Dunk to do the same, we see that Dunk is hesitant, believing that his mother may one day come back for him after abandoning him. In the end, though, we know that Dunk is a follower. He follows Rafe and aiding her in her plans, and then follows Sir Arlen afterwards. He needs that kind of guidance in his life, or he would remain content in Flea Bottom and never move forward with his life. And that is all really shooken up when Sir Arlen dies, and now he doesn't have that guide. He doesn't have that person to follow. He's the one actually going forth and carving out his own path, and ends up actually having someone follow him in Egg. He's not only is he carving his own path, but he's bringing along someone else on that path as well. We then watch as they return to Flea Bottom. There's a corrupted peacekeeper who's harassing them, stealing their money, so on and so forth, and he's using his station to benefit himself through the mistreatment of others. Eventually, Rafe does fight back and is killed in the process. I think her death is really incredible, painful. I think we lost a character in this moment. A character with really strong potential to be very impactful and someone we would want to follow. I mean, the hardest part is, I mean, she just had her hopes dashed just moments ago, learning that the price to leave King's Landing has doubled. I mean, she is dying in the one place she's trying to escape from, and she gets no chance to say goodbye to Dunk. Her body is now stuck in Flea Bottom forever. No song will be sung about her. No one will give her a proper funeral, and she'll simply be another street kid who lays dying in the streets. It's really tragic and really hit me hard when that scene occurred.
Hey, everybody, just popping in real quick. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, that would really help us out a lot. But either way, let's get back to the show.
This is not only the death of her dream in life, but kind of for Dunk also. I mean, he loved her, and I think Dunk's relationship with her and her death is something he carries around with him. I mean, I even think that he kind of recalls Rafe when he ends up meeting Tanzel, in the puppet theater. I think that Rafe is someone who is pushing Dunk to move on and find something better, and Tanzel not only reminds Dunk of Rafe in terms of her looks, but Dunk gets the opportunity to save Tanzel when he couldn't do the same with Rafe. Sir Arlen of Pennytree bursts through the door of the bar, drunkenly fighting off this peacekeeper, and eventually beheads him and his cohort right into the pig pen. It was a nice little foreshadow moment they had before that occurred. Dunk eventually leaves, and that shot of him in his like tiny small hidey hole that him and Rafe lived in just really pulls your heart out of your chest. I mean, it really hit. He eventually spots Sir Arlen and follows him back to his camp, where we see a small grave dug, assuming to be Sir Arlen's squire or someone he was really close to, and that kind of explains why he was drinking so heavily in Flea Bottom. We then get a sequence of Sir Arlen departing from King's Landing and Dunk following behind him with an injured leg. Sir Arlen either doesn't seem to notice him, with him being drunk 90% of the time, it wouldn't be shocking, or he is sort of testing Dunk to see how much grit and endurance he has. Now, eventually, Sir Arlen does walk up to a passed out Dunk on the side of the road and tells him to get up. We're then flashed back to the presence to witness one of the grittiest fights you'll ever see to put on screen. I think it's a masterful experience to go through. The sound of the crunching armor, the impact of every sword slash, the pain in each actor's voice as they push forward to wound or kill each other. It's really incredible. We witnessed plenty of intense moments, but I think one of the greatest is when Dunk loses his sword. That flea bottom instinct sort of kicks in, and he gets down in the mud and scraps it out with Arian just right there on the ground. Arian gets the upper hand eventually. He straight up throws his sword right into Dunk's leg. I mean, it kind of falls under the realm of like unrealistic, but it is quickly overshadowed by how freaking cool it looked and felt in the moment. I think one of the best things about this scene is they do not shy away from the fact that these two are absolutely broken down piece by piece, and they show the blood, they show the wounds, and the absolutely insane swollen eye that Dunk is sporting by the end of it. It's really something, just something to behold. It adds to the impact of the fight in a way that is way more visceral and real than most fights you see in films, where you mostly just get kind of a little cut above your eye and a little blood dripping down. When Arian has beaten Dunk down enough to keep him down, the sound for the rest of the scene is muffled when we are in Dunk's perspective. I think it adds to this effect of it almost being animalistic, especially when Arian calls out to Dunk to yield. It has this kind of gravel, this anger, this animalistic sound, and it's really one of the very few moments where Arian is actually kind of frightening, honestly, instead of prideful. The script is like completely flipped though when Dunk arises for his second wind and is able to take Arian to the ground and beat him into submission. We hear Makar screaming for his son as he runs across the field, and I think it just adds that extra layer to that scene, reminding us that while Arian can be a piece of shit, he is still someone's son, someone who cares about him and doesn't want to see him die, even though the situation they're in is because of him. Once Dunk drags Arian by the leg to be placed in front of the nobleman, it's Dunk now who kind of has that animalistic sound when he tells Arian to tell the truth. And with Arian's declaration of, I withdraw my accusation, the trial is over and the fallout can begin. Dunk is quickly dragged off to tend to his wounds, and Baelor Targaryen follows suit. As Baelor's helmet is removed, we find that most of the back of his head is smashed in. He falls, being held by Dunk, and dies. Someone dying for the purpose of exonerating Dunk has to be his greatest fear. The last thing Dunk wants is to cause pain to anyone, and I think this is another death that will stay with Dunk forever. As he sits there in the dirt with potentially one of the greatest leaders of Westeros in history, the episode ends. This episode is incredible. I think they achieved the depiction of the trial in one of the most powerful ways possible, and I think Doug's backstory put in the perspective we needed in order to understand what he has overcome and what kind of a man he has grown to become. I'll admit, on my first watch of this episode, I found the flashback to be a bit misplaced. It felt like we were building to this incredible moment, the trial of Seven, and then we were pulled out of it for a flashback that felt a little too long. On rewatch, I think the flashback served a great purpose, and my response to it wasn't as harsh as the first time. I think the slimiest scene of this episode is Arian's animalistic yield, and then followed by Dunks having that animalistic sound when he pushes Arian to withdraw his accusations. I'm going to give this episode a solid 4.5 out of 5. I think the flashback is still maybe just a little misplaced because it does take us out of that moment. Maybe it might have been better if the episode just started with a flashback and then went into the trial, but I think maybe it just would have flowed better. So that's going to wrap it up for me. We have one more episode to go, and I'm excited to talk about the conclusion of this incredible series so far. Keep your heads up, and I'll see you next time.
Be sure to watch the next film before next Wednesday. We had a blast and hope you enjoyed it. This episode was a production by your hosts, Harrison Jensen, Renn Jensen, and Scott Shepperd. This is a group effort, and seriously, thank you. Thank you for listening and watching us however you found us. We really appreciate it. Help us grow by leaving a comment, a 5-star review, subscribe, and share an episode with another cinema lover. Also, let's connect. Find us on Discord and Letterboxd for film discussions, reviews, and recommendations. Also, check us out on social media. We're always posting clips, film rabbit holes we're going down, and interesting stuff. And you can also show your support by using Buy Me a Coffee, and we'll give you a shout out if you'd like. All links can be found in the episode notes. Goodbye.